Abe, did you hear that?
The city business in a vacuum.
And Abe, did you hear that Patricia's going to be absent? She was going to be here. Okay, I thought Amanda had mentioned that. I just texted Amanda just to make sure, but I could.
Oh, we have everybody, yeah.
Jim, you ready to go? Go ahead. There is nobody else here. You can call the meeting now. Huh? You can call the meeting now.
Let's set a record for the fastest meeting. We have 4 people.
Okay, I'd like to call the August 8th Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda is a roll call. And Dina, can I have you do that for us, please?
Wow, let me turn my mic on. Okay, Commissioner Von Neumann,
Present.
Commissioner Hansberger. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay.
You did. It's present.
Okay. James Wong. Here. Glenn Johnson.
Present.
And we have Patricia Troth absent this evening.
Also, just to let everybody know, if you don't already, we have 2 vacancies on the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission meeting. I believe one of them is going to be filled on Wednesday at the City Council meeting, but we still have one opening for Leucadia. We want to thank Mary Lou Schultz for her service on the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission and wish her the best in everything she decides to do. Next item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone will stand and with me, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have approval of minutes from the May 9th meeting. There was one change that was done on that, and I see in the revised minutes that it has been included. And that was under action item B, that the letter was motioned and approved and everything. So is there, anybody have any other changes on the May minutes? No?
I move we accept them.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. All right, and we'll just go ahead and have a voice vote if that's okay?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of approving the amended May 9th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. The next minutes are from the June 13th meeting. Hopefully everybody has looked at the drafts. I didn't see any changes or needed changes on that. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Also moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, and we'll do a voice vote for approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All those against? Seeing as there are none, those are approved. Okay, the next item on the agenda is oral communications. Seeing as how we have nobody from the public for oral communications, we'll move on to the next item. And that is special presentations, proclamations, and announcements. There are none, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, action items. And the first action item, and let's see, what number is that? 7A, Vulcan Avenue striping enhancements. Will Abe go ahead? and
Yes, thank you,
take it
Chair.
away.
Before I get to the action item, one special presentation that I wasn't aware until this morning, otherwise I would have brought it to commission. An item is being taken to the City Council this coming Wednesday with regards to Assembly Bill, I guess potential Assembly Bill 1713. Assemblymember Tasha Bonner-Horvath has sponsored this bill that is going to the City Council. We are presenting, but the fact that we did not have any input from the Commission, I would encourage the Commissioners to read the staff report and read the bill, and if they have any comment, they're welcome to attend the Council meeting and express their input. I'm sure it will be received by the Council because they haven't heard from the staff nor the Commission on this topic, so I would
Right.
recommend. Correct, yes. I don't know if it's called exactly that, but it is about, yielding and rolling, on bicyclists.
Yeah, it's called Stop is Yield, and it's a proposal for Encinitas to undergo a pilot program. From what I've read and everything, it would include members from law enforcement, the community, staff, to run a pilot program to treat four-way stops throughout the city, perhaps, as a yield and not as a four-way stop. Evidently, this is a, huh?
Four-way yield for bikes, not for cars.
Correct, bikes. That's a very important thing, yes. Thank you, Jim. My understanding also is that this pilot program might last until 2008. 2028.
That's a long pilot program.
That's a long pilot program, yes. But anyway.
Yeah, it's not adopted, it's not yet approved. I mean, there is a very long process. The staff has a lot of reservations, a lot of concerns, so we will bring it up to the council, obviously, on Wednesday. I just didn't want commission to be blind, said, hey, Abe, like you went and presented something to.
No.
I wasn't aware until this morning that it is going to council.
I beat you to it because I saw it early this morning that it was added. So
Apparently, there is some complications with the timeline of things going to Sacramento and being approved, so it had to happen super quick for Encinitas, if blessed by the council, to get on that list of 5 cities. So,
but I personally already sent my support of that to the city council.
okay. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying you should support it or not. It's your choice. I'm just saying
Absolutely.
I wanted to give awareness to the commissioners. So my action items, the Vulcan one, let me open it, 7A. So this is a combination of 2 separate tasks. One was given to me by the commission with regards to addition of the pavement legend of bicyclists may use full lane, the R411. That comes with the sharrows. MUTCD does allow us to implement pavement words and symbols in combination with signs. We've experimented in 101. Seemed to be well received. We didn't get much complaint, and drivers seem to understand it pretty well, and bicyclists like it. So the commission's direction was to see if there is an opportunity to implement on Vulcan. So we did check different locations, try to find some good spots that this can be implemented, and there is an exhibit on the report that shows it. On top of that, after implementation of the Vulcan project, one comment that we received a lot that before, as probably you recall, we had skip stripe center detail, which would allow passing, and it was a passing zone all along Vulcan. With the lane narrowing that we implemented and to basically benefit from this whole narrow lanes and sharrows, we converted it to a double yellow to create more traffic calming, basically using bicyclists as a traffic calming measure, because cars now are stuck behind. Bicyclists would have to slow down to their speed, yet being 15, 12, 17, depending what they're doing. That did not go very well. We received a lot of negative input from the community that people did not like to get stuck behind the bicyclist, And we did see a lot of, I guess, illegal passing, we should say. People decide to go over the double yellow, go to the opposite lane, and just pass the bicyclists. So what we thought was, obviously, we cannot start like enforcement to the level that would prevent this whole thing from happening. Our sheriff's deputy cannot be present, 24/7 there. What we thought would be to implement a measure that would keep the traffic calming in effect in the majority of the corridor, but certain spots, segments along Vulcan where we have a good line of sight, there aren't that many driveways, not that many major intersections, move back to the skip stripe. So if we have a very slow cyclist, at least during that stretch, that the sight distance is good and there are not that many conflicts, cars can pass them. So this commission item that you see contains both items. The bicyclists may use full lane locations and also the 4 or 5 segments that are all, we calculated enough length for vehicles to be able to pass another vehicle at a speed of around 30 miles an hour. So passing a bicyclist is totally fine. I mean, we didn't need this long of a segment, but passing another vehicle, we didn't want to create so short of a stretch that would allow passing a biker but not allow passing a vehicle. So this can accommodate passing a vehicle at a 25, 30 mile an hour speed. So there are a few of these segments, and there's also the BMUFL bicyclists may use full lane pavement legend that we're proposing along this stretch. The fact that the original traffic calming plan was approved by City Council for design amendment purposes, this would also go to Council after Commission's blessing, or possibly blessing, to be reviewed and approved by Council, and then we'll implement it out in the field. With that, I'm open to questions, if any.
Does anybody on the commission have any comments, questions?
I do.
Commissioner Wong?
Thank you, Abe, for doing analysis on this, and I am kind of in favor of it because it would appease irate drivers. But to be honest, I've never seen much reluctance on part of drivers to passing bicycles, even if there's a double yellow line. They seem to be happy to do that, legal or not. So I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised to see this, that people get impatient waiting behind bicycles, because they don't do that. They don't wait behind bicycles. They'll just pass them. Enforcement or not, they just pass them.
Well, I guess the ones who complain to us are the ones who stop behind them, because if they're passing, they won't complain.
Well,
They would
by
just
that
pa-
1%,
Yeah, I guess,
they
yeah.
wait, but it's very few.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, we did see a lot of illegal passing, so I guess, yeah, people don't. Well, I guess they stay behind them for a few seconds, but the patience is not that strong, and they quickly run out of patience and start passing, so.
Yeah, what I'm worried about is these, sometimes they're called punishment passes, where they pass very quickly and then cut in very quickly. And if they cut in too quickly, there's only one person who loses. It's not the car.
I mean, again, this is a commission item. You can, recommend keeping it as is, and we'll take it to the council with a, negative recommendation from council. I feel like this is a middle ground per se. Between starting enforcement to the level that would really have an effect, because random enforcement will not solve this problem. We will always have bikers there, and people always will pass these bicyclists over a double yellow. So I don't really think enforcement can, unless we do like a really, like a 24/7 presence for 3 months or something, issue 100 tickets. But
Correct.
I thought this would be,
Yes, I mean, as I said at the beginning, I am in favor of this, mainly because I feel it will appease irate drivers, but I don't really think it make much difference in their behavior, because I think they'll still pass double yellow line or skip line either way, because they do that anyway.
oh, so you think they won't wait for the skip stripe segments? They will, even if they're in between these skip stripe segments, they will pass? That's what you think?
Well, if it takes more than a few seconds before they get the skip stripe,
They will pass.
they won't wait, because the solid yellow line does not inhibit them now. So why is it going to do that in the future?
Well, now I guess they know until Lucadia they won't have the option. Even at Lucadia they cannot do that. Well, it gets to 2 lanes right before, but at
Okay,
least
as I
now
said,
they know if they wait for
I'm
10
in favor of
seconds they
this.
get to a
Yeah.
passing.
As I said, I'm in favor of this. I'm going to vote for it. and I appreciate your analysis. I'm just stating my skepticism that it'll make much difference.
At least in that case, if we, start issuing tickets, we have we can hold our head high that, hey, we tried to help you before starting ticketing people.
Correct.
Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Hansberger.
Thanks for doing this, Abe. I think it's, as Commissioner Wong said, I think it's going to help. Well, I don't know if you thought it would help, but at least it is helping in an appearance for the neighbors and the people that use it. I know that there are this is a safe routes to school, and I know a lot of neighbors were unhappy that there was not that there wasn't a way to pass because they were concerned that cars were building up behind them with their kids on bicycles. So I do think this is a good solution, and I do think a lot of cars were staying behind. At least it was reported to me by the neighbors riding now they are on e-bikes, so maybe they're moving a little faster. But anyway, so I think this is good. I also think it's gonna help that it says bikers may use full lane bicycles. I think that will also maybe stop the illegal passing. But anyway, thank you for doing this and trying to help the neighborhood get to school and every place safely on their bicycles.
Sure.
Commissioner Johnson, do you have any comment or not?
No, I'm having trouble with this screen, actually.
Oh. Oh, it's asking. I don't know if tech can come and help Mr. Johnson with his screen. He can't. Somehow he's unlogged.
There, that's the button.
Oh, now it's blank.
There now.
All right. Okay.
Oh, it's very good.
I'll go ahead while Commissioner Johnson is looking at the diagram. I'll go ahead and say that Abe, I think this is a good middle of the road adjustment to the situation. I am very aware of people, like in my experience, I don't think a double yellow line necessarily impedes people from passing. I think it's just the fact that it's a double yellow line on Vulcan might have caused them a little more concern, but other places in the city, I see people crossing a yellow line, double yellow line to pass. But I think this is a good adjustment. I especially like the bicycles may use full lane. I think they are very effective in educating motorists to look out for bikes. And so I think this is a good thing, and I totally support it. One question, we have two different speed limits. South of Leucadia Boulevard, it's 30, north is 35. When can we get the north part down to 30? What do we need to do for that?
We are, now that we've modified the striping, we are authorized to redo another survey. We did it like 2 years ago, I think, but we can do it now. Soon after implementing these new legends, I will redo a survey to hopefully can lower that.
That would be good. Mm-hmm. Any, Commissioner Johnson, do you have comments?
That's a very good idea. Right. That's a very good idea.
Okay. All right, as long as there are no other comments or questions from the commission, I think we should go ahead and I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation for this plan and have it sent to the city council.
Second.
We have a second, and so we'll go ahead and do a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the staff recommendation to enhancing striping on Vulcan Avenue, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. Thank you, Gabe. I think this is a good reaction between city residents' concerns and other stakeholders' concerns and all. And my hope is that sooner or later, the vast majority of automobiles will understand that bikes belong on the road. And this is one step toward that, I hope. Next item on the agenda is Bike detection, let's see, 7B, bike detection in the city of Encinitas. We're to receive a report and provide recommendations. And I'll ask Abe to take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this was another one of our log items recommended by the Commission for me to evaluate. This is about utilizing the R10-22 sign and also the pavement legend that goes with it to clarify for bicyclists where to stop at signalized intersections to be detected, to put a call on the controller to get a green. Mainly used at locations where you don't have vehicles putting the call on the lanes so that the green would be missed. A bicyclist might be staying behind the line and he wouldn't put a call because there's nobody, on the vehicle side to put the call for them. And there are other circumstances where bicyclists would need to know where to stand to put a call, a lot of times in left turn pockets if they get to left turns. So we started a citywide sweep of what we have and what we don't have, our 5960 traffic signals, including the shared ones. So I came up with a few ideas and options, and I wanted to bring it to the Commission's attention and receive input and feedback on how do you think we could approach this. So this is the MUTCD of what it says about how we utilize this and where we utilize this and how it's implemented. It's not a very clean, clear threshold or criteria on how it's being used. MUTCD leaves it very open with regards to where we want to use it. It just says you can use this if you want to. As you can see, the 50-some signals that we have, we do not have that many bike loops. You see a lot of these zeros. These are all where we do not have any bike loops. We do not have any specific, I forgot the loop's number. There is a specific loop for bicyclists that is a little bit smaller. It has a line in the middle of it that improves the detection, so it can detect smaller and lighter bodies of, metal bodies to trigger that loop. We don't have it. So what it boils down to is using our vehicle loops, the type Ds and type Es, to detect bicyclists, and that's where you want to utilize the sign and pavement legend. You put a marking on your loop and a sign on the side of the road that clarifies if biker stops on this loop, chances are they will be detected. Now, talking to our signal team, our maintenance crew, and our signal consultant, there are a few advantages and disadvantages with this. Apparently, the sensitivity of the loops that we have in town right now and in our controller goes from 1 to 7. If we maximize the detection on these loops to detect even smaller bicycles and lighter bicycles, the downside to that is a lot of times the vehicles on adjacent lanes start putting calls on the loop. For example, if you increase the sensitivity of a left turn pocket to capture a bicyclist who stops on that left turn pocket, the number 1 lane, which is a through lane immediately adjacent to that left turn pocket, on highest sensitivity, a lot of time that vehicle would put a call in the left turn pocket. So a left turn pocket that should not be served on that cycle because there's no, let's say in the evening, there isn't that many cars, a green would come up for a left turn pocket without anybody using it, for example. So these kind of problems with the signal operation can happen when you maximize the sensitivity. Now, how big of a deal that would be, and the cost benefit and the balance of benefit to the bicyclist versus issues to our signal timing, that's really tough to say until we actually implement it. That's one option. The second option is we have a 1.2 million signal grant that we haven't yet started implementing. That is upgrading all of our controllers to 2070s and converting our cabinets to all Cadillac version material. One of them is a specific card that would improve the operation of these loops. It has a specific name. It's like a bike detection card of some sort that would improve the functionality of the loop in a way that it can detect bikes very efficiently. Each one is a couple of hundred. Now, not each loop would need that couple of hundred. Each set of loops, so depending on the DLC and how it's run, I would say each intersection, depending on the size, might need 4, 5, 6 of these. So with a few thousand for each intersection, we might be able to just upgrade the cars to that better detection. Still, with our 60 signals, we're looking at probably a couple $100,000 with the installation and everything. Third method, obviously, is installing bike loops. As we go forward with our auxiliary projects, with our pavement projects, we can just, at our bike lanes, install bike loops for every location that we have a bike lane. And some bicyclists do not like the detector to be at the bike loop because of the fact that they might be hit with a right hook after they put the call on the green. So they think maybe if they come out, it would be safer. I mean, that's not really something that I can think it's a risk, but I've seen bicyclists, sometimes they don't like, to have to stay in the line train before the green comes up. The last option that I really liked, I do ride, but not a avid cyclist. From one of our consultants was, I'm not sure if you have, I know you too ride a lot. They said there is like a very cheap magnet that some pro cyclists use that would trip the loop detector, and you don't even need to be. You've tried it?
No, I'm just skeptical about that because I don't see how one magnet could move.
This guy I trust. This guy is a signal pro, has been doing signals for like 20 years. He said it's a $5 or something that he said even connects to the non-steel bodies. I said some bikes are not steel. He said it doesn't matter as long as it's close to the ground, close to the pavement surface. The magnet would trip the. So I guess it's an easy thing to test. And he said, hey, if I was you, instead of spending this many thousands of dollars, just send a pamphlet out or put something on a city website. Hey, bicyclists, come to the city hall, get a detection kit or something. Could be some sort of a clamp and a magnet that could. He was very, very positive that it works. And I mean, you two ride around town all the time. I say, if you like, I can get two from him and you test it for me and tell me, hey, if this works. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to try it, but I'll say that I'm skeptical. But if it does work, and I'm convinced, that makes it even more convincing. But I just don't know from my EM theory, one magnet wouldn't do it.
Because the loop detector, the way it works is by disrupting the magnetic field around those loops. So those loops do not really detect the vehicle, they just detect the disruption. So that magnetic field around that magnet, I guess it's a strong magnet of some sort. So if it creates a magnetic field like 2 feet around it, that would disrupt the loop and it would trigger the call. So it all boils down to how strong that magnet is, and I know there are small magnets that have a really, really strong magnetic field. So I guess it should be tested, but this guy was very, very positive about it. He said, I've done it before and it works very, very accurately. That's what he told me. So I'm with you. I mean, obviously we want to test. We don't want to start giving away magnets to bicyclists if it's not working. But yeah, between these 4 or 5 options that we have, obviously there are different cost implications and cost prohibitiveness of some of these. Please.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. Yes, these days there are some very, very powerful, very low-cost rare earth magnets that indeed can generate such a field. And they're cheap.
Yeah, I would say if it was me, between starting doing a whole design like a full citywide inclusion of bike loops at every signalized intersection, that would include cutting pavement and adding loops and sealing it again, or adding cameras that has bike detection capability, or even the legend and the sign. I mean, those are the signs and the legends. They are on the cheaper side, I would say. But at each 4 legs, if we do that, it's probably like $1,500 to $2,000 per intersection. So we're looking at $100,000 if we choose like 50 intersections to do this. So between $100,000 to implement something like that citywide, and I don't know, $500 for a bunch of magnets. So
I want to say that those electron EM loops, they work by inducing a back EMF. So when a car moves over it, then it it's reflected, kind of reflecting like a radar signal into the loop, and then the detector detects a phase shift. Basically, that's what it is. So a static magnet wouldn't do that. However, a magnet that moves, if you're moving the magnet really quickly, then it possibly could do that. So that's why I'm skeptical. I don't think a single magnet can do it, even if it's small. But no matter what, you just have to know where the loop is. So of the options that you gave, I think that we should start off with the first one, where you just mark where the loop is, and that gives people a good idea, the best chance of triggering the loop. I know that some loops in Encinitas are sensitive enough to detect a bicycle wheel, because I've done it. But you have to have your bike in the right place. So if you have the pavement marking, I think that would help. The sign doesn't help so much, but they'll explain the pavement marking. So the other options are nice to know that they're Plan B, C, and D, but Plan A may be enough, just mark it, and if you go with Plan A, you'll be able to mark more intersections than if you have to go to B, C, or D.
So you think maybe a combination, start with the pavement legends and the signs and increase sensitivity, and then add the magnet,
Correct.
I guess, pilot
stressing
program or
that
something?
You may not even have to increase the sensitivity. If a cyclist knows where to place their bike, then that may be enough. Your current sensitivity may be enough. So I'd say start with that and see whether there are any complaints. Actually, it's even easier than that, because when you paint the symbol, then you can take a bicycle wheel and put it there and see whether it triggers or not, without changing the sensitivity of the signal. Just see whether it triggers.
Good conversation, and this is a receive and provide input, so this is exactly what we're doing. The fact that this is not budgeted, and my preliminary cost estimate for the signs and legends is somewhere around 100K, is there a suggestion by the commission to maybe start phasing it, maybe start with some intersections, I don't know, based on volume of bikes or size of the intersections? I don't know, any idea, like, because it would make it complicated if I start like a city-wide approach, and then I would have to wait until the next fiscal year and create a project, and then council would have to bless it. If it's a smaller thing, I might be able to use our own, annual, not discretionary, but the funds that are easier to tap into to at least do some intersections and see how we work, how we use those. Any idea on
Yeah, I
where
think
to
that's a
start,
great
how to
idea.
start?
I think it's a great idea to phase it in. Start with, say, a dozen intersections first and see how well it works. Ones that get a lot of bikes, such as Chesterfield and Coast Highway, for instance.
So you think the level of bicycle activity is more important, or the level of vehicles? Because I feel like if you have a very busy intersection like Chesterfield and Chesterfield and 101, you will have detection there by vehicles, and chances of a bicyclist sitting there waiting for a call is very limited. Maybe sometimes during the day you don't have anything from southbound left turn, maybe.
Yeah.
But-
I'm sorry, I'm showing my perspective, my bias, because I'm often riding early in the morning where there are no cars.
Oh, I see.
And then I have to go and press the walk signal, and that's kind of a...
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, early morning, or there might not be that many vehicles to put the call. Because I was thinking between like busy intersections and bigger intersections and smaller intersections and less busy intersections, like which one would be better to clarify for the cyclist this is where to stop. So you still think busier intersections would be better if we want to do a phased program?
If I can comment on that, this is Commissioner Johnson. The mobility element is proposing bicycle routes through the city, and I would think that intersections that are on that proposal, that they, it's still a draft proposal, but I would think those intersections that are on their draft proposal would be the first ones to go after.
I can look into that.
Commissioner Hansberger, do you have any comments on this?
I think it's a great idea. I like phasing it in. I think this is a good plan, and maybe you could pick one intersection that is busier and one that is less busy. I definitely see your point that the less busy intersections, the bikes are waiting longer. But I also see Commissioner Wong's point that if you have cyclists in the morning and they're waiting and have to push the button. So I am not a cyclist, so I'm going to defer to the cyclists on this commission for their priority on intersections. But I do like the idea of phasing it in. I also was hoping maybe one of my fellow cyclist commissioners will test that magnet out. I am not going to test it out because I probably wouldn't show back up here, but because I would have crashed. But if one of you guys could test that out, I think that would be another fabulous option as well.
Thank you. I think I have some comments and a couple of questions. With the material, Abe, with the material you sent us, I counted there were 24 loop detectors in the city. Are those specifically for bicycles?
Correct. Those are specific bike loops
Okay.
that are
But
smaller and they're installed in the bike lane.
Yeah. Huh. I guess I'll have to start paying attention to see if I can, if I ever use them.
Yeah, I
But-
wasn't aware of them either.
Yeah.
They are quad loops. so they're
I'll take a
small.
look. Personally, I think that the city is responsible for improving the safety of mobility for all users. So putting the responsibility of having a magnet on a bike, I'm not in favor of. I think that's the city shirking its responsibility. I don't think this is an area we need to try to save money on. I don't understand that mindset, quite frankly. I'm interested in hearing more about a card that we're doing these new signals all over town, and so this card that you said it's a bike card can be installed at the same time, and then the existing loops would work better.
That's what I'm told, yes.
Well, then I'm all in favor of that over any other option. If we're spending $1.2 million on signalizing our intersections, then to show that we don't just care about cars, that we also care about bicycles, we should definitely do it so that it benefits both. That is my one recommendation would be to install the bike card when we're upgrading all the signals so that it's equal benefit to all modes of transportation. So that's my opinion.
If I could mention, I have no objection to that. I'm all in favor of that. But I think you still have to know where the loop is, no matter how sensitive the card is. So I think the pavement marking is still important, with or without the card.
Gotcha. Okay, so what I'm receiving is, let me come back to the commission with a proposal on how we phase this pavement legend / signage associated with existing loops, and seek your opinion and approval on that to be able to, because I want to check my budget to see how far I can go and how big this first phase can be, and then bring the locations to your attention and you provide me the input about, are you happy with these locations or not? We will at the same time pursue the signal upgrade. I would have to look into my grant proposal to see, because at the time when we applied, this was not in our train of thought. So I wanted to see if the grant language does allow me to use $200,000-300,000 off of that grant for this purpose. So that's something that I would have to look into. Maybe I can do a phased approach in that, maybe use that money to fix some of those intersections, not all of them, and then come back and use the city funds to upgrade the other ones with those cards. So that's something I do some due diligence when I come back with the signs and with the pavement legends. I'll update the commission on what my grant allows and what I think I can do with that. And the magnet, I'll still look into it. I mean, it's a good thing to have.
Commissioner Von Neumann here. I'm not real excited about trying to find $100,000 to put in pavement legends. Because there's a lot of needs in the city, and quite frankly, I don't know how important a need this is in the overall scheme of things. I don't know how much of a problem this is for most cyclists. Other than doing a survey, I just don't really know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is a number one thing. It may be a very important thing for a small number of cyclists or what have you. So I want to be real careful about, taking money from perhaps applying bicycles may use full lane signs in other places in the city to this. I'm not quite sure of that. I would like, definitely talk with the grantor. I find it really amazing if you can't add this into it. I would like to go find that out first before we make any other decisions about how to spend money. It should be a part of the signal improvements, I would think, but maybe it's not. I know it's government money, but again, there's a lot of needs, and a lot of needs that we've been talking about for a long time. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not real comfortable with all of a sudden trying to find money for a new project, as good or as needed as it may be. It's a priority thing as far as.
Chair, could I make a comment? No matter how good the card is, I think the bicyclist still has to know where the loop is, and that's what the pavement markings are for. So I don't think you can scrap the pavement markings and just go with the card.
Do it at the same time that you're upgrading the signals, put in the pavement markings.
So,
as
yeah,
part of the grant.
Well, the grant does not have any striping associated with this included in it. It's more a control, like a physical hardware upgrade type of a grant. So I cannot address that piece. But to Commissioner Wong's point, I would assume the cyclists who do it frequently, they know where the loops are, but it is a fair point that they should know where to stop. No matter how good your detection is, if they stop at a wrong location, they won't be detected. So I guess they come together in a way, and the dollars are different. So the 100,000 estimate that I have is just for the pavement legends and the signs to clarify the locations of these. This is what we want to phase. So if we start with, let's say, 10%, 20% of our intersections, it would go down to like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, which is somewhere that I think I can handle. The cards, the number I got is a couple hundred for each detection set or each DLC. It's probably, I said, a couple thousand per intersection. So we're looking at about 200,000, 300,000, between 100 and 300, depending on how many sets. I don't know how many we need. That is a big number in the 1.2 million. And the fact that the scope of grant was written when we applied, I can maybe tweak it and steal 20,000 out of the grant to do something that we like, but taking like 20, 30% of the grant and doing something that's not included in there, it would be a tough sell. So that's something I would have to kind of look a little deeper and find out what it would allow me to do. But let me come back. Let me come back in a month or two. I haven't started my grant yet. I just hired a new staff member. Has not yet accepted our offer. So, but hopefully as he arrives, we'll be able to do more projects, and we'll start this project running, and we'll see what we can. But yeah, I'll look into the phasing approach, and I'll come back with some better cost estimates. And
okay, Commissioner Von Neumann here again. Yeah, I think telling people where to stop is absolutely fine. But again, I'll reiterate my point. I don't know about how, where to put this on the priority thing. Like, for instance, I would rather put $100,000 toward a pedestrian crossing at the border of Solana Beach and Cardiff. I think that is in my mind, a higher priority. So I don't want to take $100,000 necessarily from something that is a higher priority item. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion about which is a higher priority. Mm-hmm. I've shared my thought on which is a higher priority. But yeah, any more information on this would be good.
You can provide me more direction when I come back with a better estimate and a more clear picture of the project. No motion needed on this. We'll just record this and we'll include the comments in the minutes. And
perfect. Okay. All right. Let's see. That is it for our action items. We're on 8A, Safety Mobility Project Updates. Thank you for sending the chart out. If there's nothing really new or any updates that we need to have, unless there's questions from commissioners on a specific item here, then we don't have to spend a lot of time on this. So, Abe, do you have anything new to update us on the list that was sent out to us?
Yes, one item that I had promised that I would not show up here if it's not done was the cleanup of the path on Vulcan. So it was done about, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. It's not perfect, but it's walkable now. I don't know if you've walked there. It's better than before. The outer fence was removed, and it is doable. I mean, it's not convenient for like two people to walk side by side, but it is way safer than before. So
I went as they were cleaning it up, and I thanked all of them and ran through it while they were doing it, and then I've run it 2 more times since then. So thank you so much. I was going to acknowledge that.
Yeah,
It is a big deal for
improvement.
Lucadia, and I know it is just a dirt section along a curb, but we are so thankful that you guys made that happen for us. So
yeah,
thank
it was
you.
all our public works team that they took it on, and yeah, a lot of times these are not really clean CIP projects, but it is something that would help the city and make it a better place. So yeah, we're all for doing, and council really likes these. I mean, it's not even a quick build. Council,
Right.
has this idea of quick build. I mean, I won't really call it a project. It's more like a betterment of an existing situation. But Public Works helped us, and we were able to get into a resolution with the resident to remove that second layer of fence. I mean, the city was in talks with them for years, and we were able to finally convince them to do this. And no, it was a good, I guess, a group effort.
Right.
We also did a few new crosswalks on Rancho Santa Fe area. The study that was presented to commission last year, it went to council, included a bunch of new high visibility crosswalks at El Camino del Norte and Lone Jack. And there are also 2 other locations that we are still looking into them, Morning Sun and Olive Crest. But the 8 legs of El Camino del Norte and Lone Jack intersecting with Rancho Santa Fe, 1 leg already had a stamped concrete paver looking crossing that we couldn't touch, but the other 7 legs all received new ramps, ADA ramps, and new high visibility continental crossings. Those were completed, and we're working on Morning Sun and Olive Crest.
Right.
So you are working on Morning Sun? I just wanted to follow up. So is that in the works, or is that not in the works?
Olive Crest is happening. Morning Sun is still, we're collecting. The first round of data showed that it's justified. It was in the original consultant's report, but because of some comments we received from the neighborhood, we wanted to make sure it's effective and it will be functional. So we collected some data. We're waiting for the schools to open to do another round of data collection to be absolutely sure it's something good. We don't want to just do it because it was in the report.
Any other commissioners? Any comments on the project list and updates? I have a question. I have a question. I know from the list last month actually showed speed legends along Wandering Road is being completed. Additional bike legend along South Coast Highway, and ladder crossing at Mountain Vista and Village Park. They were on this ongoing and completed list last month, but they're not on it this month. And when I proposed creating this kind of a list is so that we could have a history, easily accessed history of what you and everybody else in the city have been doing to improve our mobility. So I would keep anything that's ongoing or completed on this list so that, if someone says, well, when was that done? And we can say spring of 20, that type of thing. So I would like to see the ongoing and completed list. And then the other question is, I also think under notes, Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission project list and updates, under new, would be anything new that's going on by a different department, let's say, that adds to mobility and traffic safety. So if I had a project in my mind, like, you know what I'm trying to say is like, it's not just traffic department, but there are other departments in the city that have an impact on mobility, and that I think we should have those projects on our list also. Even if you, as the traffic engineer, don't have any primary responsibility for it, would give me, I would think, the residents a better understanding of everything that's going on in the city, which is quite a bit. So that's a suggestion I have and a comment about that.
Okay, I was going to jump in, sorry. I was thinking maybe you could just add to the table for the first comment that you made, was that maybe the middle section can be ongoing, and then you could just add a section at the bottom that says completed. And so then you could just leave the completed running, you know, I was going to say numerically, but that's by date is what I was trying to say. That way we can just have a history. So I really do like that. And then your second comment about adding everything happening, I was actually thinking we do have the other document that just has the, you know, the building projects, and I kind of feel like that is nice to keep separate. I guess I like this document to be a document that is projects that Abe and this and you can actually get completed, I think was my thought on what was happening on this document. So I'm not sure I would want other projects that would muddy the you know, what we were working on and what could get completed with this department. But I do like to know what's happening everywhere else, so maybe those other projects could be added to the construction document or the planning. I'm not sure.
Let me revisit, like, take another stab at this, see how I can reform this to a more comprehensive, more. The reason I removed the completed ones was I wasn't sure how we find out which ones are new, which ones are not. But if I put a date, because the summer, a lot of times, like this month and next month, like completed would be the same, would be summer. So how do we find out these are the new ones? Maybe I make the changes bold so we can say, okay, the bold lines are new and the regular ones, or maybe find a way to clarify that these are the new stuff for this week, for this month. But let me tweak this a little bit more, and next month
I appreciate that. Yeah, there were two specific things I was thinking to add to the ongoing that had mobility and traffic safety orientation, but being done by a different department. And one of them is the sidewalk on South Coast Highway. That's a CIP project, but that's really important for us to be aware of that that's going in. And I don't know anywhere else in the city where that is actually listed or a time for it and things like that. Like, my understanding is that won't be done until sometime in 2023. But, you know, pedestrian safety is a very important thing. So that was one thing I thought should go on the project list, and even though it's from the CIP. And any other CIP projects that perhaps are bike and ped and mobility oriented. So I appreciate you taking a look at that. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions or clarifications on that. But I do think this is moving in the right direction, because we're not all going to be here forever. And it'd be nice to know that there's a record of stuff following us.
Can we go back to that chart? I got distracted by your comment on how to reorganize that, which is a fun discussion, but I also had a couple more things. I'm really happy about what happened along the dirt path, but I'm still not seeing any movement on La Costa Avenue with that walkway section that was supposed to connect that dirt path and then the walkway. And I know the funds have been approved, and I felt like last time you said maybe the contractor had been hired. So could you give me an update on that, please?
It is, there was a hiccup there last minute when the contractor was supposed to come out to start working. We noticed Some sort of a technical glitch, I guess, in the design that we had some concerns with, starting building it and then would have to come back and redo it, a year after. So we went back to the drawing board and had to revise the design a little bit. It's not to the level that we would have to come back to commission or council. It's still the same thing, connecting Vulcan to the bridge. But the details of the design and the location of the ped ramp and ADA and a bunch of tweaks. We greenlighted it a few days ago. The dollar amount is about the same. I think it was $60,000 or something. But it is going forward. So hopefully next month it would be completed. Like when I come back next month, we'll have an update that says it's complete.
Okay, perfect. And then my last question is you were doing the parking study along Vulcan, and then you were maybe going to be applying for a grant to try and do the pedestrian walkway on the inside of the parking there. How is that coming? Any progress, or are we,
The application to the state was submitted. We are working on another application to SANDAG. Hasn't yet been submitted, but we are working on the application. The survey for the parking demand and occupancy is done. I haven't yet received the results, but the survey itself is done a few nights. We collected video information on how the parking is utilized and how many parking spaces we actually need. So if we convert it to parallel, what would happen? One conversation with the Coastal Commission has happened. They were receptive to the idea. We had some concerns that this parking hit would not be something that they would be receiving very well. One, I guess, something that initially we thought would be a disadvantage, which was the fence, actually worked to our benefit because Coastal now does not consider that side of Vulcan as a coastal parking anymore because of that fence. So technically speaking, if we reduce the parking capacity, we're not impacting coastal access anymore. So that's something that is actually helping us.
okay, that's
So it would make it
that's good
easier
to know.
So yeah, we're moving forward at a standard city pace, and we'll get there hopefully. But the funding is huge. The estimate we got, I think, was close to $1 million or something. So
Thank you so much for going after grants for this. It really, again, will make a huge difference for this section of North Leucadia because it is safe routes to school. I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times. And, there's just no place for us to walk along there or bike. I mean, I'm hoping that path will actually be wide enough so that, kids on bikes on their way to school and people walking will be able to utilize it just like the one in Cardiff, and I think it can be done. So I'm really excited you're pursuing this for us. Thank you.
That would, Commissioner Von Neumann here, that would be a good project to put on ongoing and completed. It's not on there, is it?
well, it's not a project per se. It's more of a
goal?
Yeah. A vision for a project or something.
I thought I saw it somewhere on here, like as Vulcan traffic study, but I guess I don't see it.
Could be on
there.
our follow-up log because I will bring the findings of the survey, whatever preliminary design we come up with, I will bring it to commission. So it could be on the log.
Maybe where I saw it. Thank you.
But yeah, I think at some point we can maybe merge the log into this too and add another section that like future items or something and maybe mix these two. We're, as Chair mentioned, this is still an ongoing thing. But I see a lot of, I guess, overlap between this and our log.
Right. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. We'll move on to development project review. Appreciate getting this every time. So thank you. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that.
And if Commissioner is not aware, last week at the Planning Commission meeting, the Clark Avenue project was rejected by the Planning Commission.
So we'll have Clark Project version 2 coming up very soon, I'm sure.
Well, I think it would be challenged. It would go to council. I think the developer would.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to go to council. But Okay, so let's take a look at the follow-up log. And again, if there's nothing new from you to update on what is listed there, we don't have to go item by item. If any commissioners have any questions about it, but first of all, Abe, do you have anything specific update on what's listed?
No, we just gathered some info at Euless Traffic Circle. Our 1-year mark for post-implementation evaluation is coming up. We have to go back to council in October. So next month, I'm hoping to bring to commission a review of how the circle is working, how many people are following, what has been the lessons learned, and so when I take to council, I have my commission's input on that circle. So that's something that we collected data for.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions on what is listed in the follow-up log?
I do have another one, the at-grade crossing updates. Is there any update? I know that I'm hoping they've started evaluating the different intersections, but is there any update on that or any news?
I don't have any. I'm not involved in that at the moment. I'm not. Last I heard from our director was that a consultant was being hired or hired. I'm not sure if we went to council to actually hire that, but that was the last update which I at that point provided to commission. But I can't get more information. And I did, Chair, ask our director for a update on streetscape, and she said we can do it next month. We can have somebody here from the CIP team to present updates on the streetscape.
Great.
That would be great. I'd like to know what's happening with the section they've completed, and then what is the plan for the northern, North Lucadia. So yeah, if we could get updates on that, as well as if possible, to get any sort of, even just like a couple sentences on what the update is for the at-grade rail
At-grade.
crossing.
I will.
Like they've started evaluation, or we still don't have a consultant. I feel like they've hired the consultant. I feel like that happened at city council, that they've hired the consultant and the consultant has started working, is my understanding, but.
Yeah, if they've had any, I doubt that they would have a meeting to present their any kind of finding or any kind of approach without me. The fact that I didn't attend any meeting, they either haven't started, or if they have started, they haven't had any kind of a document passed down, or they haven't really provided us anything yet, because I would probably see it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Any other commissioners? Any questions? I have a question about number 61. I noticed there are some rubber things going across the road. Is that part of the study for this crosswalk?
That's actually Solana Beach. So there, I don't know if I provided this to commission. We have this ongoing conversation between the Solana Beach team and us, and their concern was that their city council believed, again, stop me if I've mentioned this before, their concern is a lot of time, especially during colder seasons, that potential crosswalk will not be utilized as much. And our original idea of an actual signal there would cause I guess, aesthetic issues to the residents there that would have to see that green and red light all around winter, or where people don't use it, if we introduce a signalized crossing. So initially they suggested just a regular crossing with RFB, which both engineers on both sides did not accept. We both said, no, we don't think it's a good idea. Nearest intersection that is controlled intersection is too far. On their side, it's like 2 or 3 blocks away, which is the first signal. On our side, it's Las Olas. There is a very, very long stretch of uncontrolled. We know the speed limit is 35, but people can go up to 45, 50, and or is it 30 there?
It's 35
It's
there.
35, yeah. So it can easily be around 50, especially that's like the middle point of 2 controlled locations. And the fact that it's there's a slope there. So we didn't, both city engineers did not like the idea of an uncontrolled crossing with just an RFB. So we brought on the idea of a PET signal like the one we have in Swami's, or the streetscape ones, we have Diana, we have the other one, I think Phoebe. So we have 2-3 locations on a streetscape that we're introducing a Swami's type pedestrian crossing. It's an actual signal. You just press it, it stops the vehicles. Their concern was that, well, you don't have any residents here. Our residents see the beach, and this signal, even at night, will be just sitting on green because you cannot turn off a signal. Otherwise, it would constitute a stop sign. And we don't like that. Okay, the 5 months of the year where people cross here, it works fine. But even those 5 months, what about at night? There's nobody here, and you want a signal just blinking green and red and green and red. So that was a concern. We are talking about these, the signals have that angular or specific projection that does not really drop the light for that far out, and we can focus it on a specific zone around the signal with some sort of a shade. There are options. They are suggesting hawks because they're saying a hawk will only be activated if somebody pushes it, and the other periods of time where nobody is around, it stays dark and it does not constitute a stop sign. So it's just sitting there and vehicles pass during the winter. If somebody shows up and presses the button, it would start. Our concern with hawk is that we don't have it anywhere around, and it would be a one-off, and people are not familiar with it. And it is MUTCD, but our concern is inconsistency. We have 5 or 6 different pedestrian signals that are all signals, and we have one hawk.
Can you describe what a hawk is for our audience?
High intensity activated crosswalk, aka hawk, which apparently the name comes from the wife of the professor who invented hawk. So she suggested to him that this is a crazy name, high intensity activated crosswalk. Why not call it hawk? And he called it hawk, and it stayed as is. Very, very, I guess, popular in Arizona, Nevada, in those states. Tucson, I think, has hundreds of those. The look of it is like a T-shaped, 2 heads on top, 1 head on the bottom. The 2 top heads are red. I can show a photo. You haven't seen it before? I can show a photo.
I am encouraged that the cities are talking to each other about this, because I hope there's a sense of urgency on this, because we're making this area much more attractive to pedestrians, and I think some additional safety measures need to be taken for sure.
Yeah, Glenn Johnson here. I'd observe this is Southern California, and I don't know when the colder season is versus the warmer season, because we seem to have many warm winters and many cold spots in the summer. So I'm confused by that. In my simple mind, it seems like if there's a place where the pedestrians are not to cross until they push a button and then the light goes on to stop the traffic, that would be good enough.
I agree.
So this is the look at the.
It's called a hawk signal, and they are starting to pop up in Collin County. Jobin Paniker shows us how it works.
It is no small task.
It's just really treacherous
to navigate across Alma Drive in Plano.
It's a busy road, yeah.
Which made it the prime spot for a new piece of technology, a first for Plano.
It only needs to be activated as needed, whereas a full signal would kind of operate more systematically.
Walk sign is on to cross Alma Drive.
Called the Hawk system, it acts like any signal, except the signal is dark and traffic can pass through freely until a pedestrian pushes the button to activate the light. Bob Hughes lives along the Bluebonnet Trail.
I came by here the other night and I saw it was on, so I said, well, I'm going to try it.
Once activated, it goes from blinking yellows ultimately to a red, forcing vehicles to stop and allowing walkers, bikers on the trail to go. Now, the city of Plano has identified places near these trails, because imagine trying to cross 6 lanes of traffic without help. The Hawk system even speaks to the other signals along Alma Drive, making sure traffic moves smoothly.
It operates as part of a coordinated timing system, so it works with the other signals.
We saw some drivers were confused over when to proceed. The signs read, to do so with caution during blinking red lights. The city got calls from people saying the light is out, but it's only dark because a pedestrian hasn't activated it. For people who live here,
This will give them an opportunity to get across safely.
a
So,
welcome addition. The city of Plano is
yeah, as you
considering
can hear from the video too, it can cause a lot of confusion because it's a very, very different way of operation. The advantage, obviously, is it's dark and it doesn't constitute a full signal, so you don't need to stop when you see it dark. But I guess there is a learning curve. It involves education. There is confusion when people who don't know what it is get to it. A lot of times there is a concern about rear end. It would go up probably the first few months. You know, people come to an abrupt stop when they see it zigzagging or yellow. Okay, what is a flashing yellow? What is a zigzag red? So there are a bunch of concerns.
Commissioner Wong here. So I was a little confused by that sign that says proceed with caution when flashing red. So cars are not required to stop?
Was it there?
Yeah, if you go back, I think that's
Flashing red.
fine there.
You know, I don't think you can. I think when it's solid red and flashing red, you still have to stop.
Because I think that's what the sign said, proceed with caution, flashing red. So
Flashing red or flashing yellow? Flashing red, was it?
red.
So flashing yellow, you can proceed,
I
but
understand
yeah.
that. But if you go back to that YouTube thing and look at the sign, I think that's what it said, was proceed with caution.
Yeah, I won't. I mean, that's a
And-
YouTube video, so I won't. Well, I'll check MUTCD, but I think
Yeah.
flashing red you cannot pass. You
Well,
cannot.
That'd be great if it did that, but I know drivers like to take leniency with signals, such as like right turn on red, supposed to stop, but that's rarely done.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the problem is bigger than, you know, clarifying how it operates. I'm sure we can, you know, put proper signage and, you know, do enough education to feel comfortable that we've done, but how it actually is going to be used by the residents and non-residents. I mean, we have some of those in San Diego County. I think I've seen 2, 3, but it's certainly not something that everybody's familiar with. So
So the city of Solana Beach might be open to a hawk?
that's what their council likes. However, they do know that it's our jurisdiction, so they don't have any approving authority over our decision. They have dedicated, to your question about those detectors, they set aside a very small amount of money, I think like 30, 50, somewhere there, to do traffic calming evaluation for the border of the two cities. They do know that a lot of people use Harbor Park and then cross there, the side that is on their jurisdiction. The crossing happens in Encinitas, but people walking in the park and then, you know, where they want to start crossing is theirs. So they asked their city engineer, their department, engineering department, to evaluate possibilities of doing some traffic calming measures. So that's their consultant evaluating what's going on there.
Well, I'm encouraged to hear that the conversations between the two cities about this are continuing. And
Well, we are-
hopefully within a year, we'll have some idea of what we're going to do.
I was just going to jump in, Commissioner Hansberger. I think people are smart and they will figure it out. And I think that, I know the hawk signal looks different than anything we have, but I think people will figure it out and it will make a big difference, because especially now that all of those trails are open over there and the connection goes in so many different directions, I think that Solana Beach's argument of saying that in the winter people won't use it is not valid. In fact, I run across there illegally all the time, all year long on my runs. And so I would greatly appreciate anything. And I mean, I even would appreciate just even like one of your speed table crossings, you know, with the thing you get a push and it would, you know, if you could paint it white, how you have along Vulcan, and it shows that there's the speed table and it's the crossing, and when you push it, it flashes. I mean, I realize that's not great because cars are going faster, but it is better than me trying to run across with nothing. So, anyway, the bottom line
understand.
is, thank you for looking into this, and I appreciate your tenacity in dealing with Solana Beach, since they don't want the red light, and trying to find something that would work for all of us. So much appreciated.
I will check this in CVC for you, but I do have a feeling that your crossing is not illegal, so don't worry about crossing. I don't think it's illegal crossing. It looks illegal, but I don't think it
It's
is.
just downright dangerous.
It is downright
Well, I
dangerous.
didn't want to say that on record either. So,
It is, yes, I agree.
but I don't think it's
I'd
illegal. I'll
comment
check
here.
it, but yeah, because of the fact that you don't have a controlled crossing anywhere around you, I don't think it would be jaywalking or any kind of illegal crossing.
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson here. We have a lot of traffic here due to the coast, and that means that we attract people from all over the county and even from other cities. I don't know that we want to educate everyone in the county as to how to use a hawk system. If someone comes and he's not familiar with it, it has to be intuitive as to what to do, or we're going to have some interesting things happen that won't be very desirable.
I was just going to say, well, everybody coming from Arizona will know how to use it, it sounds like, so that'll be, we'll at least have their expertise.
Well, it is certainly a major concern. The education and operation of it is a concern, and I think one reason being is that you have to start hawk from somewhere, and once you have 10 of those in the county, 20 of those is easier. I think it never got that push to kind of get, and then cities started to do regular pedestrian signals, like the time when we did Swamis, or the restaurant road crossing is similar. So we could have done all those in Hawk, or when we applied for a grant for streetscape crossing, we could have done those in Hawk. But I guess consistency becomes the enemy of introducing new items, and you just do similar to the previous ones, and that has been our route. And I guess we can always change it and start a new thing. But yeah, I am with you, Commissioner Johnson, that as a city engineer, it does scare me to introduce something as sophisticated as that, and start working on educating public about how it's used. Especially the fact that in the county we don't have that. I mean, if City of San Diego would have started like doing 30 of those in 1 year or 50 of those, not just one-offs, but like a widespread use of this around the county, or County of San Diego in maybe rural areas, it's a very good implication for application of this in like rural, lower volume of traffic where they cannot just introduce a signal, but they haven't done it either. So,
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Some folks say that consistency can breed complacency. So there's something to be said about anybody using our roads having to pay attention, because who knows what they're going to find. So I don't know. I don't think implementing something new should keep us from doing what is right. Hey, Encinitas, I don't think anybody else has put bicycle may use full lane pavement legends down on roads, and so I think we should continue to kind of lead the way, along with this pilot program that we were talking about earlier. Hey, let's do something that shows other people how it needs to be done.
Commissioner Wong here, I want to agree with the chair on that, because I think you have to give drivers some credit for some intelligence. They are able to learn new things, so especially if it's clearly signed.
Okay. Well, thank you, Abe. On the follow-up log, does anybody have anything they want to put on the follow-up log, other than me?
Well, I do, but it'll be in the commissioner's corner.
Okay.
so it is item 9 now. So I think,
Yep.
Chair.
We'll move to Commissioner Corner.
Oh, shall I start?
Commissioner Wong?
Okay, so I have some PowerPoint and a video to show, a little presentation for you. This is going to be on the relatively new intersection at Manchester and I-5. So,
The PowerPoint.
correct, yes. I mean, and then show about 5 slides, and then I want to show the video. So for those of you who are not familiar with that, this is where Manchester is basically east-west, and it goes under I-5. Most of the traffic that's coming down from El Camino Real, which turns into Manchester, wants to turn onto I-5 South, we can go to the next slide. So that's why there's 3 lanes westbound on Manchester, 1 lane's for going straight ahead, and there are 2 right turn only lanes. So the bike lane is to the right of the 2 right turn only lanes. And that, of course, is a classic setup for right hooks. So it's that case where right turning cars have to pay attention to bikes and the pedestrians on the crosswalk. Now, Caltrans did install 2 very prominent no right turn signals. They're supposed to stop the right turns. But I'll show a video where it's not necessarily happening because motorists don't really pay attention to them. This is what you're saying about hawk signals. They don't necessarily pay attention to them. So I don't know whether you could put signs saying no right turn on right turn signal, would that work or not? But that seems to be what's needed. Could you go back to the previous slide? Thanks. Okay, so whatever the reason, they don't really stop for them. I think they see the solid red lights, and solid red lights are automatically in their mind saying, oh, well, I should stop if I'm going straight, but right turns, no problem, I'll just cruise on through. They're supposed to stop, but that doesn't happen. All right, so you can go on the photo. This is just a picture of what is. I took it at night because I wanted to be no cars, but the green lights there are for cars. It's a little confusing. And the red lights there are for bikes, and there's a walk signal in orange that you can barely see. But you can see that there's a bike lane which is painted green, and then there's 2 right turn only lanes for cars, and then I guess called the number 1 lane, the straight ahead lane, is to the left of this picture. And so you can see there's quite a bit going on here. So I have a little close-up picture of that. So next picture. So this is what it looks like. You can see the 2 prominent no right turn signals. Then there's solid red lights for cars. And then the bike signal is there. So it has to be green in this case because I pressed the walk button. And it has a red arrow, a green arrow. All the green, yellow, and red signals of the bike signal are arrows straight ahead. So
The red arrow that with the line through it, that's for cars, right?
Correct.
So that's a no right on
Turn.
that, okay.
Correct, yes. So we go on to the next one, which I think is just a video. So can you show the video? So this is a video of just 2 signals where I pressed the walk signal and crossed on the crosswalk. And you can see this. Can you hold it right there, Abe? Can you pause it right there? So, sorry, can you back up a little bit, a few seconds? Sorry, I didn't tell you I wanted to pause it there, but. Yeah, right around there, just pause it there. So this is where I just crossed westbound coming towards the picture here. And so the walk signal is still on. You can see the no right turn signals are still on. The bike signal is green. The walk signal is on. But you can go ahead, Abe. You can see how are cars paying attention? No right turn signals? All right, this guy finally stopped. All right, but then the no right turn signal turned off and so he went on. So he was the one illegal person there. So here's another case. No right turn signals are on. Bike signal is green. How many people are stopping? So walk signals aren't. They're not even slowing down. So I think these 2 cars actually stopped, and then they do wait a few seconds, and then the no right turn signals turn off, and they proceed. So they're doing that correctly. But you can see quite a few cars ignored the no right turn signals. So that's pretty hazardous. Can you go back to the PowerPoint, please? Sorry to make you all do all this work. I didn't explain that. I want to switch back and forth. So looking at this, I have a proposal that would be relatively simple to change, I think.
Back to the presentation or video?
Correct, the presentation. The slide after the one that says video, which is probably number 5 or so. Yes, so this is a proposed update. So right now, as you remember, there's 3 car signals, and they apply to all lanes. So I'm suggesting that we ought to change that to 1 signal for each lane. So there's lane-specific signals. So the signal for the straight ahead lane will have, the through lane will have straight arrows going, saying, you can go straight, you can stop, whatever. The two signals for the right turn only lanes will have only right signals, right arrow signals. So it'll eliminate the solid red lights with red arrows. So that gets rid of the presumption that a solid red light means right turns are okay. Now the bike, that makes these lights consistent with bike signals, which only has arrows. Hopefully we won't have to explain no right turn on red arrows, because that seems to be necessary for the no right turn signals now. People are not stopping for the no right turn signals. Okay, so next slide, please, Abe. All right, so sort of my crude picture here, but this is my proposal. Change those 3 green lights right now, showing the greens, from applying to all lanes to have 1 for each lane. All right, so the one on the left is for the through lane, and I'm saying it should have 3 arrows, red, yellow, green for straight ahead, whereas the 2 right-only lanes, right turn only lanes, will have only right arrows. All right, so that's the suggestion. Oh, by the red lights here are for the bike signals, so that's why it's confusing. Okay, next slide, please.
Commissioner Johnson here.
Could I just finish this, and then we'll do all the questions and discussion at the end, please? So this is my request. You know, I realize this I-5 interchanges are Caltrans, but the current configuration is mainly dangerous to city residents because the pedestrians and bikers are mainly to be local people. We're also asking for a mode shift to make our infrastructure more amenable to all ages of people from 8 to 80, so that means increasing the safety and the perception thereof to those people. Bikes and pedestrians should be able to trust that people will obey signals, so if there's no right turn signal, they should be able to trust that cars won't do that. That's not happening now, and so this is really violating that trust. It proliferates non-compliance, you know, so all the cars, they see other cars just turning right, so they don't bother stopping, even though it says no right turn in a big signal. It also means that people won't be trusting the signals. You know, I mean, I wouldn't feel safe going through that on a bike, even though I have the great green bike signal, because more cars just turn right against the red light than not. All right, and this will also apply to the other intersection on the other side of I-5, which will be updated presumably using the same configuration as this one. So my proposal is to repurpose those 3 signals from all lanes to lane-specific ones. It's likely to be kind of cost-effective because it's only changing the signal heads, and you have to specify that how you make them for each how you make them lane-specific, I don't really know, but I'm sure you guys know how to do that. So my request is that, first of all, the commission evaluates this proposal, maybe hands it to staff if commission approves, and then I know you guys, staff, have a good working relationship with Caltrans, so a letter, MOU, or discussion, something like that, maybe we can get this proposal done and make that intersection safer. So now I'm opening it to questions and discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson here. Yeah, I agree that this is a mess right now, and someone's going to get seriously run over if it's not fixed. I imagine that the blame for this rests solely on Caltrans. They designed it, and they created a mess, and we do need to ask them to fix it. The question is, can this commission do anything, or can we refer it to city council with a letter or something? You know, and your suggestion is certainly a good suggestion, but Caltrans will have their own opinion as how they can fix the mess they've created.
I'm just suggesting that our commission look at it, and if we approve, then we could ask staff to look at it, put it on the follow-up log, and however staff feels most appropriate for forwarding to Caltrans.
I'm not sure if the setup you showed, I got to check METCD. I think you cannot provide different information on the same signal head. So the fact that you have one green and one right arrow adjacent to it can cause, I know one of them is for right turn pockets and one of them is for the through lanes. But to have different heads, I don't think I've seen it. We have it for right turn pockets, but those are usually right turn overlaps where they turn on when the through is not green yet. So they don't turn on at the same time. And when this through green turns on, usually the green arrow disappears. So to have one right green arrow and one right head at the same time, I'm not sure if it's METCD, but that's something I can look into.
I'm sorry,
That
I
being-
didn't quite understand what you're saying about having.
So on that mast arm, you are showing one right arrow, one through arrow on this, and then one right arrow here. This is what you're showing, right?
Correct.
So I think the message on the two signal indicator on the mast arm should be identical. I don't think we can have a different for this.
Are
I
you
know
saying
it's
that
for a
because
different.
they're mounted on the same mast, then you can't make them for lanes. You can't make them lane specific. So I'm saying the left signal should be for the left lane only, the through lane only. The middle signal should be for the middle lane only, and the right signal should be the right lane only. So the middle and right lanes are right turn only lanes. That's why whoever's in that lane will only be turning right.
No, I see what you're trying to achieve. I'm just trying to think if this setup would allow us to get to that point with the regulations we have with the, but irrelevant of, the technicality of this, I do get your point, and I don't think we need to give the answer to Caltrans as long as we pass a strong letter of concern to them that this is our commission's opinion and observation on this thing, and this is our understanding, and this can be a solution. They can come back and say, no, we can't do this because of this and that. But I don't think we have to spend, staff time and energy to design something on behalf of Caltrans. Commission can just give us a direction to, hey, we want this concern to be passed to Caltrans on behalf of the commission. I can work with chair to provide a draft letter to the commission, or chair himself can just write a letter to Caltrans that this is our concern, maybe attach a photo or attach this presentation and ask Caltrans for a response. I mean, the design is not wrong. If it's not very effective, I do get the point that you're trying to make. Obviously, there's a lot of illegal left turns. We have these blank out signs, these no right turn signs that turn on and off. They're called blank out signs. We have them in downtown where we have the diagonal crossing. In downtown, we get a very good compliance. Every now and then we have somebody who turns right at these blank out signs when they turn on, but the majority of the time we get good compliance. What the solution is, the majority of the users are frequent users, some enforcement education, some warnings maybe. If you were there, I guess, 1 week in the morning, you probably cover 80% of the users, because most of these folks are users of that on-ramp every day. So I think some education can help, but obviously there are users that are new and they might miss it.
If I may ask a couple of questions. Abe, is this the first you've had anyone express concern about this intersection?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Wong,
sorry,
have you...
Go ahead.
Oh, Commissioner Wong, have you contacted or spoke with Caltrans or submitted any of this information to them?
No, I have not. I felt
Okay.
it's better to go through the commission and the
Yeah,
city.
I would recommend definitely doing that. I go through this intersection multiple times a week on my bike, and the problems and the situations that Commissioner Wong has demonstrated or exhibited absolutely exist. As a pedestrian or a bicycle rider, I know not to trust any no right turn on red signal, but it shouldn't have to be that way. I do know that I personally have shared concerns with Caltrans about this, and I was told that they were going to take a look at it. I haven't heard anything from them yet. I took that upon myself just as an individual user, not on behalf of the city of Encinitas or anything. I also contacted the Sheriff's Department and asked for some increased enforcement on the no right turn on red there, and The reply I got from the sheriffs was, "Thank you, we'll take a look at that." So you know, obviously something needs to be done here. The stop sign for bicycles is a bicycle within the red. The green for the bicycles, it doesn't have a bicycle in it. The heads for the signal heads for the bicycles and the signal heads for the automobiles are too similar, too close together. There's not enough distinction on them. These are all things that I shared with somebody I know at Caltrans. So I definitely think that we need to figure out how to keep on this and improve this intersection. I'm not quite sure about the ability for it. Abe, I would think that the city would be interested in the safety of this intersection. So a letter coming from the city might be more effective than a letter coming from an individual like myself or even our traffic commission. If it came from the city manager, I would think would be something important. But I think with the information that Chairman Wong has provided, I think this, you know, if the city agrees that that this issue needs to be addressed, I think they should be able to draft a letter that would have some response from Caltrans.
Yeah, we certainly can do that. The fact that this wasn't designed incorrectly, my concern is the response would be, well, it needs to be enforced, and the design was correct. I certainly can conduct some sort of a survey to when we send them a letter, send them an actual number. You know, a peak hour survey show that like 80% of the right turners do not, you know, obey the no turn on red or something to make the letter a little stronger. But yeah, it's tough to poke hole in the design of this. It's more about compliance, and that's my concern, because modifying this is not easy. I mean, the solution to just change the bulbs, that's easy, but I am not sure, to be honest, if it's doable. Not that it's physically not doable, technically doable, but yeah, I mean, I can look into this a bit more and gather some information and put a letter together. I know the project manager. We talk, and I can just pass this to them. I won't go as far as taking it to the city manager level, but I want to first see what his thoughts are. Maybe he talking to their design team, and they have an idea. Maybe they already got it from other residents.
Well, yeah, the last time I rode my bike through there, while I had the green for my bicycle to go west, 11 cars blew through that.
No, I mean, the video clearly shows the compliance is not really that high,
So, Commissioner Wong, I don't quite know where you want to go with this. Do you want this, something regarding this added to the follow-up law?
Yes, that's correct. I'd like to see that the commission approves of the suggestion that we should take some action. And
Are you talking specific action or?
well, specific action that,
study or?
well, I think it's mainly up to staff, Abe, to decide what's best, how to handle this. And they need to study the situation as well, perhaps doing some statistics as he suggested, because I don't know how to deal with Caltrans as well as he does. So I think that we as a commission should make some kind of statement that action needs to be taken. It should be in the follow-up log saying that there's going to be some action. Well, I can't say exactly what's going to happen, but I want it to be in the log someplace so we can follow up on it later on. That's why it's a follow-up log.
So how would you frame the request?
Well, I'd first of all request that the commission evaluate this suggestion that we ask the city to study the problem and open a discussion with Caltrans as how to fix it. So
Essentially request that the city follow up with Caltrans based on concerns with this intersection.
correct. So do I need to make a motion on that?
No, it needs to be approved by 2 other commission members in order for it to be on the follow-up log. So I I would support asking the city to have conversations with Caltrans about this intersection to see how it can be improved.
I would agree with that.
I as well. So this is great. We can get this on the follow-up log. And then I just had one other question about it, but it's a side question, so I don't want to, let's finish this and then I'll jump to one more question about it.
Well, everybody on the commission agrees with having it on the follow-up log, so we'll leave it up to our traffic engineer to initiate that conversation and then report back to us on what's going on with it.
Okay, I think it's time for Commissioner Hansberger's question. We had to wait long.
Okay. And then my question was just, I think, to Abe's point and to also to everybody's point here, we need some enforcement. And I feel like if you had the sheriffs out there for 3 mornings, ticketing everybody who ran that light, people would stop running that light. So I'm just wondering, how exactly do we request the sheriffs to go there? And, I mean, do we need to send them some of the video? I mean, do you have any suggestions, I guess, is my question, Abe, besides us just calling, which we can, and please, if anybody is watching, please call and ask the sheriffs to, if this intersection is affecting your safety and well-being, asking them to enforce the law. But what do you suggest? Should we ask the city manager as well to ask the sheriffs to enforce this, or I don't know?
I mean, sheriff's office is usually pretty responsive to our requests of these targeted enforcement efforts. Fact of the matter is they're very short-staffed. They have, I think, 5 or 4 motorcycles that serve Encinitas, and they respond to collisions, they respond to a lot of different stuff, and do enforcement for speed. I can certainly pass this to our traffic sergeant and request some efforts here, and then ask for a report after. I'm sure, there's a lot of, if they want to issue tickets, but usually in cases like this, when there's like this big of a, number of vehicles not following the rules, they start with warning. They usually know there is something wrong, so they don't start ticketing like 300 people in one day. So I would say they would start with the warning first, and maybe, hey, did you notice there is a blank-out sign there? And I know this is striping. Setup is new, and you probably missed it. Make sure you don't do it next morning. Maybe the second week they start writing tickets or something.
Sure.
But we
As
can
long as they
certainly
start
ask them.
writing tickets, because I'm going to tell you, that spreads like wildfire. As soon as somebody's writing tickets for something,
It goes on next door.
it goes on next door. People, I mean, the word gets out. We have a whole neighborhood little network of, there's a sheriff with the speed gun at this, location. It spread. So I think it would be very effective. And hopefully that would, if we can't get the lights changed, at least we could get people to follow the rules.
Compliance would be fine. That's the hard part.
All right. I do know that a challenge for issuing tickets for right turn runners is the cars have to be pulled over somewhere safe. And that's not going to be on the entrance ramp itself. It's going to be on the freeway. And a few years ago, California Highway Patrol told the San Diego Sheriff's Department not to ticket people who were running the stop sign at that time. They did not want anybody pulled over. So I predict this will also involve interacting with Highway Patrol. But that's no reason for us not to pursue it. So please ask the traffic sergeant to do some enforcement on this intersection on behalf of the city. So we have that added to the log.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
A couple of thoughts here. First of all, since that is really part of Caltrans, should the Highway Patrol also be asked to enforce that? It's not our signal, it's their signal.
Yeah, the sheriffs will let us know about that, I'm sure.
Okay, and secondly, this is such a serious-looking issue that we almost need grade separation for the bicycles and the pedestrians, or else perhaps an arm that goes down like at a railroad crossing to stop the traffic from endangering the pedestrians and bicycles. This could be serious.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I go through this intersection multiple times a week, and I don't trust a single automobile, regardless of the lights. So I take the responsibility on myself, unfortunately. Anybody else have comments on follow-up log? I have a couple that I would like the commission to consider. I would like to add on the follow-up log, adding sharrows on Santa Lejo between Kilkenny and Manchester. This is a very curvy section, and it ends back down by the nature center. And I think it would be the lanes are extremely narrow. Like I said, it's hilly, very curvy. Automobiles need some additional indication to expect bicycles there. So I'd like to add that on to the follow-up log if I have support of 2 other commissioners.
Well, I ride that section as well, and I just take the lane, so I haven't had problems with cars passing me there. Where I do have problems is at the fly section at the top. I think you mentioned Kilkenny. Is that the intersection at the top of the hill? But that excludes the straight section. It continues. Well, I advise having the sharrows at least on the straight section. I mean, I agree with the hill part as well, the S-turn. I've just had less problem there because going downhill, you go fast enough, and uphill, cars realize they can't really pass you and you don't have much choice. And they can't pass either because of the curve. But the straight section is where there's a double yellow line, but there's been no inhibition against drivers crossing a double yellow line. So I would second your suggestion.
I would agree to putting sharrows along that stretch of Santa Lejo south of Glen Park.
Right, up to Glen Park at least.
Yeah.
And I think this sounds great. Is that something that is doable? I mean, how exactly do you go about getting sharrows painted in? Is that something you're allowed to do, or does this have to go all the way through council? Is it already effectively a sharrow because there isn't a bike lane?
That is correct. Sharrow is more, I guess, a extra emphasis put on the drivers for them to understand that bicyclists are allowed to get the lane. We do have an active transportation plan that shows where in the city we better put these sharrow markings. I can go and check what ATP calls for this stretch of San Alejo. If it's asked for a class 3 for a sharrow or a bike lane. I know we don't have room for a bike lane, but I have a vague memory that because of the geometry of this and the slope, they did not put a sharrow marking on the ATP for this location. I wouldn't deviate from that. So if they didn't recommend the sharrow, I will come back and update the. But if ATP calls for a sharrow there, then yeah, I can put it on our list and implement.
So can we?
You're correct that the ATP conspicuously omits that section of roadway, even though it's one of the most dangerous ones. They omit it. So I think you're correct.
It is not there. You think the same?
I believe that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's been months since I looked at it.
I think I wasn't here when it was being drafted, but I have seen it before where designers or planners feel like sharrow can give a false sense of security to the rider. They do not put it there because they believe that, well, okay, you put the sharrow, the bicyclists feel they're super safe, but drivers don't notice because of the geometry and the bad slope that we have there. So it can be because of that. There's nothing there, or they show the class 2?
Well, I think there's nothing there.
There's nothing.
Completely absent, so I complained about that. But
My request is to have the city look at this and evaluate putting sharrows there, So that's, I don't want to get into, quite frankly, I don't want to get into a discussion of what's in the ATP because we have no money, the city has no money to implement the ATP at this time. So I don't know why that would be a definitive Bible about whether to put in a Sharrow there. And it was 2018, which is, if my math is correct, 4 years ago, and a lot has changed in 4 years. So I'm very interested in getting Sharrows there, and if that request is supported by the commission, I would appreciate it. But if not, then we'll move on to my next request.
I'm in favor of trying to get them.
Yeah, I'm in favor as well.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add that onto the follow-up log. And then, also I'd like to add to the follow-up log what it will take, look at and evaluate what it will take to restripe South El Camino Real at the Manchester intersection in order to install a Class 2 bike lane northbound on El Camino Real north of the intersection, and also how to plan and a plan to lower the current 55-mile-an-hour speed limit there. And currently, there is no bike lane, and there's a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit there. There's a bike lane on Manchester up to the intersection, and then the bike lane begins again a few hundred feet north of that intersection in front of the church on the east side of the road. And, you know, this needs to be dealt with, in my opinion.
Abe, can you pull that up on your street view for all of us that aren't I feel like I know what you're talking about, but it's always helpful to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a very wide median there, too. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
El
yeah.
Camino Real is very wide from there up to Santa Fe.
Yeah, there is enough roadway to do this.
So OMWD has a project on the east side of El Camino in this area, starting from, I think, closer to the freeway and goes all the way up here.
Yeah,
And
to
it goes
Tennis Match Way or
tennis
something?
court, yeah, tennis drive, whatever. And we are working on a design to upgrade the striping on El Camino, narrowing the lanes, adding buffers for the bike lanes. We are trying to figure out who pays for what there. Last experience was not very successful, the experience between Encinitas Boulevard and Lucadia, where they did their pipe replacement, and we paid them to do this Larry and restripe, basically piggybacking off of their contract, but them being the project manager. This time we want to reverse the process and basically receive the funds they need to fix the road with their project, whatever amount that is, and then do our project ourselves, because they're only responsible for some of the northbound lanes. They're not even responsible for the full northbound, but we want to do both northbound and southbound. So we are trying to get in some sort of an agreement with regards to who's going to manage the improvements, but it is on our radar, improving El Camino east of the freeway all the way up to Tennis Club, if not further, more north even.
Great. If we have other commissioners to add this to the follow-up log?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody? Okay.
And
all
this
right.
is the stretch that Chair is talking about, north of Manchester, as
Right
you can
there.
see. Northbound, there's no bike lane.
Yep,
picks
and
up here.
there's, yeah. And that's a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit with no bike lane.
Fun.
Okay. Let's see. That's it that I want added to the follow-up log. Anybody else have anything to add to the follow-up log?
I do.
All right. Commissioner Hansberger?
I think Abe's about to click on my file. So we currently, the project north of Lucadia Boulevard along Vulcan, Abe and staff are trying to get grant money to improve that section which looks very similar to this. This is south of Lucadia Boulevard heading towards Pawlecki. And this asphalt trail here was put in as part of the Safe Routes to School. So in our neighborhood, this is all the kids have to walk to school. along Vulcan. This is it. And it is separated, which we're really thankful for. If you look, there is a bit of a black curb there, so it's got a little asphalt curb. And then you can see the 2 lanes of Vulcan are sharrows right there. There's a sharrow. So my sister and I were just running this stretch a couple weeks ago, and the car that is parked in the dirt is illegally parked. That they're not supposed to have cars parked there. So if you look at this stretch, as we were running, my thought was, is there any way from Leucadia Boulevard south to Paul Ecke to try to make this not just for walking, but also could we just also make that DG over there? I mean, that is a huge spot. And I was just thinking if we could either just asphalt it or just make it DG. I realize it's the rail corridor, so that kids could then use that just like we do in Cardiff, you know, as a walk and a bike. Because right now, no child is allowed to bike down Vulcan. I'm sorry, but nobody is. So where we get them is, if they're biking alone, not on an e-bike, is either on this little asphalt path right here, or they can't bike, you know, and this asphalt path is literally wide enough for probably 2 people. But if we could, I just had an epiphany that there's enough space going south from Leucadia Boulevard, even if it was just temporary, with a quick build project of the backhoe to just level this, and then the bikes could take the asphalt and the kids could take the dirt, you know, that we're walking, and we could actually have our own quick build rail trail from, you know, just as a, you know, safe route to school. So I just was hoping maybe, I know there's a lot happening in already north of Vulcan, and I just didn't know if this could also be added, because it's just so important. We just have no mobility in this corridor, and it is a safe routes to school. Have I said that enough times?
I would definitely support that.
So to understand correctly, this is to evaluate edge of the road, west edge of Vulcan enhancement, south of Leucadia, to Paul Ecke, to make it wider to accommodate for both pedestrian and bicyclists.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
third that.
I'll support that.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you. So can we add that to the follow-up log as well? Okay, I
Yeah,
didn't.
that's what we're doing.
Okay, I didn't know, are we supposed to keep track of that? I've written down what we've decided, or are you keeping track of that? I
No,
thought-
these will be in the
Indeed.
minutes.
Oh, it's in the minutes,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, these will be in the
super.
minutes and will be added to the next month's
Okay,
log
great.
with dates on when we can bring them back.
Perfect, thank you.
And I understand that the follow-up log can get long and extensive, but unless we take the time to actually identify these things, they will never, ever be considered. So at least I understand all the constraints and budget issues and departmental issues, blah, blah, blah. But I want it in the record that we think that this is an important thing to worry about. I had a couple of questions, not for follow-up log and everything. Gabe, when are you presenting the Vulcan residential and business classification to the city, so we can get a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on that road?
So
You guys did a
It's
lot of
not-
work on this.
I did, unfortunately, as I think I did update the commission 2-3 months ago on this, did not have at weekly briefings. Apparently, this item did not have enough traction, enough momentum. The caveat that I did include in my draft version of the report for council that said if a road is taken off the state map, it will not be eligible for state grants.
Right.
I guess was a deal breaker for our council. They did not like to take that opportunity from Vulcan and San Alejo. So they did not recommend this item
So
going
it
to
was
council.
presented to the council?
No, they did not want this item to be presented. So this item did not go to
Good.
council.
We, as a traffic commission, asked for it approved it, I believe, to be presented to the council?
Correct. I guess I can look into the legal path, but the fact that we know it doesn't have enough support, so, but I can look into it. I can see how.
I guess my quick question here is, I don't want to limit the funding for Vulcan because, as we know, it has so many issues besides drainage and traffic and walking and biking. And so is the reasoning not to take it forward and get that speed limit down to 25 because, for example, you are applying for 2 grants right now along Vulcan to fund these projects, and if we had taken it off that list, you couldn't apply for those? Is that so?
Correct.
Okay, so, but I think there is another way forward to lower the speed limit, right? Weren't you saying you were going to do a new study and try to get it down to 35? Or, pardon me, 30?
Yeah,
So-
we did new speed tables on Vulcan, and hopefully with the new with the new measures that we implemented, we might be able to lower the north segment, north of Leucadia, maybe if we get lucky, even the south segment to 25, you never know. I will redo survey on both, but to your point, Chair, I'll try again, but I hope you understand my position, and the direction was the draft report was there, but our reports get to something called the tentative council agenda, and the topics and the gist of the reports gets evaluated by upper management, and then there are council briefings every week. City manager's office and our director meet with city council members. We don't want to technically waste time if we know something doesn't have council support, if they're not willing to. If they don't like to consider it. So it kind of fell through the cracks somewhere there. But I can retry. I can bring it up again, that, hey, there is a willingness from commission to bring this to the council's attention. And
Well, let me ask the fellow, I think I understand your position, Commissioner Hansberger, not to worry about, not to pursue it. Is anybody else of that mind? Not just to let it go, let it fall through the cracks?
Well, I can understand why the council is doing what it does, because as Commissioner Hansberger pointed out, Vulcan can use a lot of improvement, and that takes money, and it'd be helpful if we could ask the state for money rather than going to our general fund. So if, as Abe said, if council is not favorable to this idea, they're not gonna, why put it on the agenda? And it's up to the pleasure of the city manager and the mayor as for what goes on the agenda. So if they don't think it's going to be approved, why do it?
Okay. I'll do that, and then I'll counteract that, Abe, with, we looked at a bunch of other streets too. And the whole point of this was to help lower speed limits in our community, which is the number one priority, I think, of most of the people I've heard speak in front of the commission, letters to the editors. They're always talking about cars going fast. You spent a lot of time, and your staff spent a lot of time really looking at this issue in order to what streets can be classified as residential and business in order to get a lower speed. So if San Elijo is being taken off, what about some of the other streets that we have? Because our commission decided that we would try one of the streets, and that was Vulcan and San Elijo. That was the commission decision. But there were other streets in your report. So let's try another street. I would hate to think that the city is just saying, no, we're not interested in lowering speed limits. But you know, that is an assumption that I'm kind of making sitting here right now. If all these studies and show that how we can do something are being disregarded or not accepted, I would, if the city says, nope, we're not going to lower any speed limits anyway, anyhow, if I hear that, then I'll stop. Then I won't even bring this forward.
I'm sure our upper management and council obviously do want to improve safety and lower speed limits. That was the number one goal that was passed down from council to commission when we had the joint meeting. I think the But the concern, as was brought up, was the fact that if we take it off, we won't be eligible for, any grants, and that was a big concern, big red flag to them. This would exist with any other option we choose off of that list, unless it's a road that is in a very, very good, improved condition that we don't really care about potential grants. I can go back and look at the list to see if there's anything there that council might not mind losing the potential, grant there. And, if commission likes that, then we can start that. Or maybe I can go the other way. First, check with council, hey, if we bring another location, another corridor, would you be receptive to the idea? If not, we just shelf it and leave it at that. But no, it's not like they won't like to lower speed limits. I'm sure they would love it, if not more than council, if not more than commission, the same amount. It's just they were worried about losing.
I get the impression the council is all for safety and will be happy to lower speed
It
limits.
is, yeah.
It's just that the cost that's required of losing a state grant is a little too much right now. So I don't think it's because they're objecting to lowering speed limits. I think it's just that it's the cost of losing the state grant is too much.
Okay, well, there are other, I cannot imagine that there are not other solutions
Yes, if we
to
had a
lowering
simple
speed
workaround.
limits. And this was one solution, and I hope the city can come up with some other ones. Otherwise, nothing will change.
So we
Okay.
made progress. When I joined, I think it was 40 and 40 or something.
Yeah, you have made a lot of progress on Vulcan. You've definitely lowered the speed limit, and I think, I don't know if you missed it, but Abe was saying they're gonna do another study and hope
Survey,
to get
yeah.
it 5 more down. So
Hopefully.
hopefully, who knows what will happen, but hopefully, fingers crossed. But I mean, it is a difficult decision, and I do think that council is very supportive of lowering speed limits. I feel like I've heard them say this multiple times. But, when you're weighing going, 25 miles on that road, but losing all ability for grant funding, and whatever road it is, it's a big deal. And it would be a big deal to get that grant funding to make that path along Vulcan. So,
That would be a good thing to end up with.
it would be it would be a good trade-off.
It would be a good thing to end up with, yes. I had one other thing. I know there's been some interest in adding sharrows before the El Portal roundabout to help bicycles know that they need to merge, if they want, into the travel lane. There are currently sharrows in the roundabout at El Portal, but approaching it either northbound, southbound, or even from the west, there is nothing to indicate that where bicycles need to go into the travel lane. So
Yes, I did receive this input. The design, the way it is right now, it's a little different from what one of the NACTO exhibits shows. That exhibit shows the bike lane stopping, I think, a couple hundred, like 200-300 feet in advance of the entrance to the roundabout, thus allowing the designer to put the sharrow marking between the end of the bike lane and the start of the roundabout. Our design, however, takes the bike lane very close to the roundabout. So I've passed this comment to the designer. They're looking into it. Based on MUTCD language, you're not allowed to have sharrows with bike lanes together.
understood?
If converting the last 50 feet or 100 feet or 200 feet of that bike lane to dashes would mean it's not a bike lane, maybe that's kind of bending the rule to allow us to say, hey, the last 200 feet in advance of the roundabout, we converted to detail 39A, and now it's not a bike lane anymore. The concern is detail 39A, which is the dash. In MUTCD, is it still considered to be a bike lane striping? To
it is.
interpret that as, well, because I made it a dash, now I'm allowed to put a sharrow mark beside it. These are the complication. And one solution would be to just stop the bike lane, do not put the dashes, and just leave that edge area empty, basically have a wider lane the last 150 feet or 100 feet or 200 feet, and just put a sharrow. That is correct. But then it would make it a weird design to stop the bike lane abruptly 150 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet before the roundabout, and then pick up the Sharrow. It's doable and it's technically correct. It would be just a weird design. So the designer is aware we've passed this concern. Hopefully they'll come back with a solution. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a very complicated matter. It's just a matter of finding the best
All right.
win-win scenario, not to do anything wrong and
Yeah. Well,
not be liable.
What the concern is that there's signage on the side of the road warning bicycle riders to look out for pedestrians, but there is no warning for motorists anywhere before the roundabout to look out for bicycles. So bicycles, if they want to enter the roundabout, they're dashing in at the last second. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I don't think that's a real safe condition between bicycles and vehicles. So I think it's a great idea to have the Sharrows in the roundabout itself, but I think we fall a little short in the approaches to it.
No, we can look. I mean, the least is extending that dash maybe a little bit more, make it longer, but to have the Sharrow, I see what you want to achieve, but we want to at the same time be technically correct and do not
Sure,
have
I understand that, yeah.
wrong marking there in case
Yeah.
something happens. So,
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else for the group. Does anybody else? Then we stand adjourned until September, right? We have a meeting in
Next month,
September? Okay. I know there's some other months this year that we're not scheduled to have meetings.
yeah, the October holiday, I don't think it falls on the commission meeting. So October, November, we're off December, January, so we have meeting until.
Okay. All right. Well, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
So only 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.